It was epic, it was serious, and it was clearly built to be something huge. But something happened. In the early 90s, animation studios were racing to create the next big action franchise. Shows designed not to just tell stories, but to build their own worlds. Worlds that could live on through shows and through toys and through merchandising. And I think few shows actually aimed higher than the Pirates of Darkwater. I think that the series wasn't just another adventure cartoon. It was ambitious, serialized, and visually unlike almost anything else on television at the time. Instead of the bright superheroes or simple good versus bad plots, it gave us dangerous ocean worlds, ancient magic, monstrous creatures, and a quest that were meant to span an entire saga. At the center of it all was Prince Ren, heir of the Fallen Kingdom, sailing across the poisoned sea in search of the 13 treasures of rule. The only artifacts powerful enough to stop spreading the corruption known as Dark Water. It was epic, it was serious, and it was clearly built to be something huge. But something happened, because despite its ambition, despite its unique setting, and despite a toyline that seemed tailor-made for collectors and kids alike, the story was never finished. The show ended before the quest was complete. The treasures were never really fully recovered. And the final confrontation never came. And that unfinished ending actually would cast a shadow over everything connected to the franchise, including its toys. In part 1 of the toyline breakdown, we're looking at the heroes, the world behind the series, and the plan that was supposed to turn the Pirates of Darkwater into a lasting powerhouse. There was a vision of what this toyline was meant to be. And I think that this vision was close to perfection, actually. But to tell this story right, we have to start all the way back to the beginning, before we come to the action figures. The Pirates of Darkwater were created by a man named David Kirshner. Now, David Kirshner is actually known for having created and designed the Chucky doll, which were used in the Child's Play franchise. And they actually were the producer of the 2 first Child's Play movies. The producers of Pirates of the Darkwater, however, were Hanna-Barbera, one of the most influential animation studios in television history. Founded in 1957 by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, the studio helped define Saturday morning cartoons for decades. They were responsible for classics such as Scooby-Doo, The Jetsons, and The Flintstones. All of these shows were built around simple animation, strong character designs, and a broad appeal. By the early 90s, however, Hanna-Barbera were trying to evolve. Television audiences were changing, competition from Japan and other studios were increasing, and there was a growth demand for more complex serialized storytelling. I think in many ways Pirates of Darkwater were a part of that shift. It featured richer animation, darker themes, and continuous story arc. Something far more ambitious than the studio's traditional episodic comedies. In many ways, the series represents Hanna-Barbera reaching for something bigger, right before the era of Saturday morning cartoons begin to fade. The television series started as a 5-episode test on Fox Kids. It started in 1991 and was actually only called Darkwater to begin with. Eventually, the first season would consist of 13 episodes. It ran from September to December of 1991. The second season only consisted of 8 episodes, and it ran on a bunch of different networks in 1992 and 1993. I think that this cartoon stands out from many of the other cartoons from this era. Instead of self-contained episode, the show followed an ongoing quest. The story centers around Prince Ren, a young royal searching for the 13 treasures of rule. These are ancient artifacts capable of stopping spreading substance known as Dark Water. The Dark Water were slowly consuming the world of Mer, which is the world where the Pirates of Darkwater are set in. Visually, the series was far more detailed than any other Saturday morning cartoon. It featured painted backgrounds, elaborate creature design, and it had large-scale action sequences. It was a perfect blend between traditional fantasy and nautical adventure. It created a tone closer to an animated epic than a standard children's show. But due to its limited number of episodes, the series actually left the central quest unresolved. Ren never recovered all the treasure, and the final confrontation with the villain Bluff never actually occurred on screen. As a result of this, the Pirates of Darkwater became less known for its ending and more known for it actually never ended. With a world this rich, a cast this distinctive, and a story built around larger-than-life adventure, it's easy to see why Pirates of Darkwater looked like the perfect candidate for a toy line. And so did actually Hasbro think. Because Hasbro got the license for these toys and started producing them alongside with the cartoon. You had these amazing heroes, the monstrous villains, exotic creatures, ships, weapons, all the ingredients that usually translate effortlessly into plastic. But like the series itself, that plan would never fully be realized. So let's start with the heroes, the crew at the center of the quest. This is Ren. He's the main character of the Pirates of Darkwater. Ren is the prince of the once great kingdom of Octopan, and like I said, he's the central hero of the series. After the fall of his homeland, he was raised in obscurity by a humble lighthouse keeper, growing up unaware of his royal heritage and the destiny that awaited him. Armed with the broken sword that once belonged to his father, a blade that was whole in better times, Ren sets out to reclaim his legacy and save the world of Mir from the spreading dark water. By the later half of the first season, his quest had already begun to change the fate of the planet, with nearly half of the world freed from corruption. Now, let's talk about this action figure. I think this is actually a quite good representation of what Ren looks like in the cartoon. He has the right sculpting and he has the right coloring to perfectly match up the series. It's quite a basic action figure, but it works just fine, I think. He has no real action feature, but he has articulation in legs and his arms, and you can move his head from side to side. He also comes with the sword of his father and a little dagger. He's a really likable character, and one you definitely need to have if you are planning on collecting these figures. He's the main character and he sets the tone for the rest of the series. When I first started to collect Pirates of Darkwater, I didn't really remember the series until I saw this character. Then it piqued some nostalgic feelings inside me and I do remember it now. And that tells me that they got the sculpting right, because I don't remember the toys, but I do remember the cartoon. This looks exactly like the cartoon. Next up here we have Yos, or Ios. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name, so I'm gonna call him Ios. But please let me know in the comments if that's completely wrong. Ios is a rogue pirate, and very much a man motivated by profit. He initially joins Ren, not just out of loyalty, but because he believes the quest for treasures of rule will lead to unimaginable wealth. However, over time, his priorities began to shift. Beneath the greed, Ios developed a genuine respect for Ren's determination and idealism, gradually taking on the role of protective, almost older brother figure. Despite his constant scheme to get rich quickly, most of which actually failed, he repeatedly risks his life for Ren and the mission. Ios also has a younger sister, Zoolie, who appears in the series, hinting at the past beyond his pirate life, I guess. I think this is maybe an even more 90s action figure. He has the same type of articulation as Ren, where you can move his head, his arms, and his legs. But the reason why I think this is even more 90s is the coloring, because the yellow pants, they really work. He comes with a large sword and a bow, and the bow is actually quite hard to make fit on his hand. I tried to search online to find some pictures, but doesn't really look like anyone actually know how this is supposed to fit in his hand. But these two together, perfect. Next up here we have the character Niddler, and this really sparks the colors into the toy line. Niddler is a winged monkey bird who once served as a pet to the pirate Lord Bluff, until he helped Ren escape, actually. In the series he's originally from a place called the Island of Pandava, and Niddler is the sort of character who brings joy into the series, a more light-hearted character. He's constantly hungry, he's opportunistic, and he's actually a little bit greedy in the television series. especially when it comes to his favorite food, which in the series is the highly coveted Minga melons. Despite his appetite and his tendency to think with his stomach, Niddler forms a genuine bond with Ren, and he proves to be a loyal companion throughout the series. In the series, his ability to fly gives the heroes an advantage over Wraith. It allows him to scout ahead, escape danger, and occasionally save the day with his ways no one else can. I personally love this action figure. I think he's one of the more fun-looking toys, not just in the Pirates of Darkwater series, but as an action figure in general. Many of the, shall I say, more serious toy lines of the 90s had at least one character which stood out as a quirky, fun-looking guy, and this is definitely the guy for Pirates of Darkwater. He's a flying monkey with a big club so that he can give his enemies a big schmack in the head. How can you not love this character? He has the right coloring and he definitely has the right sculpting. The only thing is that it's quite hard to get to stand in sort of a normal position, but maybe there's not a normal position for flying monkeys. I don't really know. Lastly here, of the good guys, we have Zoolie. Zoolie is a cheerful, red-haired rogue who operates a living game house in the port city of Janda Town, which is a town where the good guys come to visit quite often in the series. He's actually the only one of the action figures here which is not a main character, but is an often recurring character. He's a former crewmate of Ios actually. He once sailed aboard Blood's fearsome ship, the Maelstrom, before he left that life behind. Whenever the heroes return to Jandatown, he offers information, guidance, and occasionally assistance. He's the kind of contact every wandering adventurer needs in a dangerous world. With his easygoing personality and his shady past, Zoolie represents the network of rogues and survivors that exist beyond the main quest, reminding us that the world of Mare is far larger than the heroes and the journey alone. I think actually this is exactly what we need to finish off the good guys in the first wave. His sculpting is awesome. He comes with an axe and a smaller sword. They actually managed to give all these four characters completely different weapons, and they're quite original actually, all the weapons, so good job there to Hasbro. He's actually the only one of the good guys who has a real beard, you know, and for being pirates that's quite weird. He has a big belly as one would expect out of pirates, and he has a quite funny looking hair, so I think these four work very well together. You can definitely see that they're from the same series, but they're all completely unique. There was no reusing any sculpting, and there was no reusing any weapons. I think the most unique one is definitely Niddler, but as a flying monkey, he should be. Now this, my friends, is the Wraith. This is the ship of Ren and his allies. The Wraith is a sleek, distinctive vessel that becomes Ren's ship in the series, a fast and elegant craft. Originally belonged to the pirate Joat, before Ios steals it from the docks of Janda Town. This ship was designed for speed. The ship features a remarkable rotating main sail that can slow the vessel down. It can act as a parachute, and it can even detach entirely to function as a massive glider. It's less like a traditional pirate ship and more like a purpose-built vehicle for adventure. According to early production materials, the Wraith was constructed from the wood of mystical trees on a remote island. Trees said to retain a lingering life force even after being cut. Because of this, the ship often seems almost alive, almost like it's an action figure in itself. Eerie, responsive, and at times as if it has a will of its own. In many ways, the Wraith isn't just transportation, it's a character in the story, carrying the heroes across the world that was never meant to be safe. I really have to say that this is the main item to own in the Pirates of Darkwater, or at least on the good guys side. This pirate ship has so many cool details from the series that it's almost, I want to say it's perfect. I'm quite lucky because I do have the box to mine, and the artwork of the box is quite awesome. It shows some graphic and some design which really displays nice. I think the sail here is one of the highlights. but it's also one of the things that usually are missing or either in bad shape when you finally find this ship. A cool fun fact is that this is actually a set you're meant to build. So when you get the boat you have to put all the parts together. And that can be quite interesting to do after over 30 years since the set came out. It's usually missing these flags or has some cracks in it. But if you can find this ship in good condition, you really should get it. This is peak 90s playsets, I think. All of the characters also has holes under their legs, and the pirate ship has these pegs to put them on so you can display them nicely on the ship. It's made out of this very brittle plast, and I don't think it will survive if you lose it in the floor, so be careful with this. The action figures are made out of a much more solid material, and they really are made to be played with. As I said in the series, you can actually also take off the sail and use it as a glider. So they really captured the meaning of the Wraith from the television series over into the toy line, I think. Now when we look at these figures, on Ren, his crew and his friends and the playsets, it's easy to see why this could have been the start of something much bigger. Like I said in the start, I think this wasn't just another cartoon adventure. It was a world designed to grow, to evolve, and to unfold over time. Both on screen and in the toy shelves, the characters were distinctive, the setting was rich, and the stakes were unusually high for a Saturday morning series. And for a brief moment there, I think it seemed like this plan almost worked. But an unfinished story doesn't stop to be unfinished just because the heroes are compelling. Because somewhere beyond the horizon, the dark water was still spreading, and the forces behind it were far more powerful than anything Ren and his crew had faced so far. In the next episode, we will turn our attention to the villains, to Bluff and his monstrous followers, and the darker side of the toy line, including the figures and concepts that never made it into production. This is where the story grows stranger, and where the sense of what might have been becomes impossible to ignore. Because the world of Mare didn't just leave us without an ending, it actually left us with a bunch of questions, and I think some of those questions begins with the bad guys. See you in the next one.